Hi everyone, my name's Hugh Ellenwood. I'm the Archives Manager at the White Rock Museum and Archives. Today I'm going to challenge you with the White Rock History Quiz. It's lots of fun for the whole family, so gather everyone around, get some snacks, and let's get started. Here's how it's going to work. I'm going to ask you 20 questions about White Rock, and most of them are multiple choice. And you'll get 10 seconds to answer each question. But if you need more time, just pause the video. Question number 1. Which of these things is not an official heritage site in White Rock? A, the station. B, the pier. C, the cenotaph. Or D, the rock. Okay, start the clock. The answer is C. White Rock's cenotaph, although an important monument to the history of the community, is not an official heritage site. The station, the pier, and the rock are the 3 official heritage sites in White Rock. In 1975, Burlington Northern Railway vacated the station on the beach and moved to a station near the international border. The White Rock Historical Society recognized the historical importance of the station to White Rock, and they lobbied the city to give it official heritage status. This was granted by a city bylaw in 1979. 3 years later, the Historical Society was again successful in lobbying City Hall, and the pier and the rock were given official heritage status in 1982. Question number 2. This one's a railway question for all you railway buffs. What company owns the railway that runs along the beach in White Rock? Is it A, Great Northern Railway, B, the Canadian Pacific Railway, C, the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, or D, the BC Railway? Let's put 10 seconds on the clock and good luck. The answer is C. The next time you're down by the beach and a train goes by, take a look at the letters on the side of the big orange locomotives. BNSF. That stands for Burlington Northern Santa Fe. But Great Northern would have been a close answer, because it was Great Northern who first built the railway along White Rock Beach in 1909. That company then merged with several others to form Burlington Northern in 1970, and then another merger in 1996 created Burlington Northern Santa Fe, which operates on the tracks through White Rock today. Question number 3. In 1960, the city of White Rock changed the name of its waterfront street to Marine Drive. What was Marine Drive called before 1960? Was it A, Waterfront Road, B, White Rock Avenue, C, Beachview Road, or D, Washington Avenue? Okay, let's start the clock. The answer is D. Before 1960, the waterfront street in White Rock was named Washington Avenue, after the waterfront street in Blaine. But in White Rock, it was a complicated situation. From High Street westward to Ocean Park, it was called Marine Drive. Along White Rock Beach, from High to Finley Street, it was called Washington Avenue. From Finley eastward, it was named Campbell River Road, so people called it the street with 3 names. After the disastrous Fraser River flood of 1948, street names were abandoned in favor of a harmonized street numbering system for the Fraser Valley. White Rock became a city in 1957, and by 1960, it had changed the street numbers back to names. At this time, it was decided to make the name Marine Drive for the entire length of the road in White Rock. Okay, question number 4. I hope you were paying attention just now, because if you were, you'll know the answer to this next question. What year did White Rock separate from Surrey and become an independent city? Was it A, 1953, B, 1957, C, 1960, or D, 1946? Start the clock. The answer is B, 1957. As early as the 1920s, there was a movement in White Rock to separate from Surrey and form an independent city. The motivation came mostly from the fact that White Rock was more urbanized than neighboring areas of Surrey and expected more municipal services than Surrey was able to provide. The separation movement came to a head in December 1956, when a plebiscite of all of Surrey was held to resolve the issue. It was a very close race, but the yes vote came out on top. On April 15th, 1957, White Rock officially became an independent city. Question number 5. Which of these White Rock area landmarks is the oldest? Is it A, the Peace Arch, B, the Pier, C, the station, or D, the breakwater? Start the clock. The answer is C. The oldest of these popular landmarks is the White Rock Station. It was built in 1912 and officially opened on New Year's Day, 1913. The next oldest is White Rock's beloved pier. It was built in the summers of 1914 and 1915 and officially opened in November 1915. Next came the Peace Arch. It was meant to be completed in 1914 to celebrate 100 years of peace between Canada and the United States following the end of the War of 1812. But it was delayed until after the First World War and officially opened in 1921. The breakwater at the end of the pier is the newest of these landmarks. It was built in 3 sections: the western arm in 1953, the eastern arm in 1959, and the middle was filled in 1961. Okay, question number 6. When the White Rock Railway Station was opened in 1913, it was twice the size of a regular station for the size of our community. This was because it was used for another purpose other than the railway. What was that purpose? Was it A, customs and immigration, B, a community hall, C, a fire hall, or D, a municipal hall? Fire up the clock. There's a clue to the answer to this question in this photograph taken about 1915. If you look closely, you can see bars on the windows. That's because there were prison cells inside the station for the Canada Customs and Immigration Department. They shared the station with the railway until 1951, when Customs and Immigration moved into the brand new Federal Building at the corner of Martin Street and Marine Drive. So if you answered A, you got this one right. Okay, question number 7. The city of White Rock takes its name from a large boulder on the shore of Semiahmoo Bay. Which one of these statements about the rock is false? Which one of these statements is false? A, it is a glacial erratic left here by the last ice age. B, at one time there was a plan to move the rock to a more popular location. C, it is the largest sandstone boulder in BC? Or D, the city regularly paints it white? Which one of those statements is false? Fire up the clock. The answer is C. I have no idea if it's the biggest boulder in BC. I just made that up. And it's not made of sandstone. It's made of granite. Sorry I lied to you. All the rest of what I said is true. Geologically speaking, the rock is a glacial erratic deposited on White Rock Beach at the end of the last ice age, about 11,000 years ago. The city of White Rock paints it white whenever the need arises. And since there's a lot of graffiti, that need arises often. The situation was even worse back in the 1950s, when the rock was subject to so much mischief that the White Rock Junior Chamber of Commerce suggested that it be moved to a more central location like Memorial Park. Okay, question number 8. This one's pretty straightforward. Where does the city of White Rock get its water? Is it A, from rainwater reservoirs, B, an aquifer, C, the Little Campbell River, or D, all of the above? Start the clock. The answer is B, an aquifer. Underneath White Rock and parts of South Surrey is the Sunnyside Upland Aquifer. An aquifer is essentially an underground body of water that can be accessed by digging wells. In 1912, a group of local pioneers, including Fred Johnson on the left and Frank Leeson, pictured with his family, began tapping springs, digging wells, and laying pipe to cottages in White Rock. This was the beginning of the White Rock Waterworks Company, which was formed in June 1913. The company went through several iterations over the decades, including White Rock Utilities and EPCOR. When the city of White Rock purchased the company in October of 2015, it was the last privately owned waterworks utility in British Columbia. Question number 9. Many people visit White Rock to walk on the pier, but at one time there was a second, even longer pier near the mouth of the Campbell River. The pilings of this pier are now just barely visible above the sand at low tide. What was this pier used for? Was it A, the Blaine Lighthouse, B, the Crescent Oyster Company, C, the White Rock Amateur Swimming Association, or D, the Campbell River Lumber Company? Let's roll a clock. The answer is D, the Campbell River Lumber Company. Opened in 1913 by American businessmen Harold Hunter and Frank Fox, the mill was one of the largest in Western Canada, employing over 300 men at its peak. Having gone bankrupt in 1913, the mill was revived by the outbreak of the First World War and thrived during the 1920s as a major employer for White Rock and the Semiahmoo First Nation. A decline in the market and quality of timber led to the mill being closed in 1927. Remnants of this large industrial site can still be seen near the mouth of the Little Campbell River. Question number 10. Decades before the railway came to White Rock, there was a trail connecting the Campbell River with the Nickelmeckle and the Serpentine rivers to the north. What was the name of this famous trail? Was it A, the Telegraph Trail, B, the Semiahmoo Trail, C, the King George Trail, or D, the Campbell River Trail? Time's rolling. answer is B, the Semiahmoo Trail. There's been much myth and romance associated with the history of Semiahmoo Trail, but unfortunately, the real story isn't that romantic. It was constructed in the early 1870s as part of a larger ferry and road network connecting Semiahmoo and Blaine with the ferry in Brownsville, North Surrey. It fell into disuse and legend with the coming of the railway 2 decades later. Portions of the trail survive in South Surrey today as a recreational green space. Question 11. This one's another straightforward, simple one. Which one of these came to White Rock first? A, the railway. B, a school. C, a church. Or D, a community hall. Okay, let's roll the clock. This is a bit of a trick question. If we consider St. Anne's Church on the Semiahmoo First Nation Reserve to be in White Rock, then it would be the church that came first, because that church was built in 1860. But if we're talking about things within the modern boundaries of White Rock, then it would be the railway that came first. The first station was built at the corner of Anderson Street and Marine Drive in 1909. The first school was built in 1910 at the bottom of Buena Vista Avenue, followed by the first church, the Methodist Union Church, in 1913 on Prospect Avenue near Oxford Street. Ironically, for such a community-minded place, White Rock hasn't had an official municipal community center until quite recently. Historically, the community has relied on privately owned halls, such as the Legion Hall at the foot of the pier. Question number 12. The BC Electric Railway Company brought electricity to the White Rock area in 1913 for what purpose? Was it A, street lights in White Rock? B, the BC Electric Interurban Train? C, railway signal lights? Or D, the Campbell River Lumber Company mill? Let's start the clock. The answer is D, the Campbell River Lumber Company mill. Because the mill was electrically powered, it was fairly easy to bring power to the nearby community of White Rock. So, for such a small town, White Rock got electric power relatively early in 1916. Question number 13. This is another straightforward one. Which one of the following mayors served White Rock for the longest? Which one of these mayors had the longest term? Was it A, Harry Douglas, B, Tom Kirsten, C, Don MacDonald, or D, Art Wall? Let's start the clock. The answer is A. Harry Douglas was the third mayor of White Rock, and he served throughout the 1960s. He was what might be called today a fiscally conservative mayor, as he believed in cutting costs and reducing the size of various government departments. After he resigned from politics in 1969, he went on to advocate for the reincorporation of White Rock into Surrey, or for the expansion of White Rock's borders to include the entire Semiahmoo Peninsula to make the city more fiscally viable. Question number 14. What year was White Rock City Hall built? Was it A, 1957, B, 1963, C, 1972, or D, 1980? Let's start the clock. answer is B, 1963. After incorporation in 1957, the city of White Rock had to wait 6 years for a purpose-built city hall. Before construction of the new hall, council met in the Douglas Field building on Pacific Avenue near Five Corners, and in the Boundary Health Unit near where the library is today. When it opened in July 1963, the new City Hall also contained the RCMP offices and the library. Question number 15. From the 1920s to the 1970s, a structure called the tank was moored next to the pier. What purpose did it serve? Was it A, a moorage for small craft, B, oyster cultivation, C, swimming and diving competitions, or D, storing marine fuel? Roll the clock. The answer is C. The purpose of the tank was for swimming and diving competitions held by the White Rock Amateur Swimming Association, or RASA. Formed in 1919, RASA was dedicated to teaching children to swim, their motto being, "Teach a child to swim and save a life." In the early years, the tank was a simple rectangle made of driftwood logs. Over the winter, it was stored just south of the border in Drayton Harbor, towed there by a team of horses. In return for this favor, kids from Blaine were allowed to join the club. In later years, the tank was a well-designed facility with starting blocks, diving platforms, and even bleachers for spectators. RASA used the tank as its headquarters until the early 1970s, when they moved to Sunnyside Pool. Question 16. What White Rock mayor popularized the slogan, "Do it in the sand"? Was it A, Hardy Staub, B, Harry Douglas, C, Don MacDonald, or D, Tom Kirsten? Start the clock. The answer is D. Anyone who knows about the White Rock Sandcastle competition will know that the answer to this question is Tom Kirsten. Tom was elected to White Rock City Council in 1978 and went on to be mayor from 1979 to 1983. In 1979, he and his friend Chip Barrett were trying to find ways of revitalizing the waterfront in White Rock. One of their ideas was to bring a huge sandcastle competition to White Rock Beach. The White Rock Canadian Open Sandcastle Competition was held in White Rock from 1979 to 1987, attracting huge crowds to White Rock Beach, and one of its slogans was, "Do it in the sand." Question 17. Name the 3 roads that, along with Marine Drive and Semiahmoo Bay, form the boundaries of White Rock. So I'm looking for the name of the roads of the western, the northern, and the eastern boundaries of White Rock. You might need a bit more time on this one, so you can pause if you need to. But let's start the clock. The western boundary of White Rock is Bergstrom Road, 136th Street in Surrey. To the north is North Bluff Road, 16th Avenue in Surrey, and to the east is State Road, 160th Street in Surrey. You'll remember from question number 3 that the street names had been changed to numbers because of the Fraser River floods in 1948. This harmonization of the street numbers was done for the entire Fraser Valley in 1956. The people of White Rock, however, were not pleased to lose their street names, which meant so much to them. One of the first orders of business of the new White Rock City Council in 1957 was to change the street numbers back to their original names. This was done in 1960. If you're interested in the history of White Rock street names, or in anything about White Rock history, you can read all about them in Years of Promise, White Rock, 1858 to 1958, by Roland Henning. Okay, question number 18. This popular White Rock event was started in 1980 and is still going strong. It features 3 days of grueling competition throughout the city. What is this event? Is it A, the White Rock Sea Festival, B, the Tour de White Rock, C, the White Rock Sailing Regatta, or D, the Women's World Softball Championship? Start the clock. The answer is B. The Tour de White Rock was the dream of local resident Al Anderson. He was inspired by European bicycle races and thought that White Rock would be the perfect location for a similar event. It took some convincing City Hall at the time, but Al was persuasive, and the first Tour de White Rock was held on Labor Day, 1980. The pouring rain didn't dampen the success of the event, which is still going strong today. Question 19. What former mayor of White Rock went on to serve as MLA and MP for Surrey White Rock? Was it A, Ken Jones, B, Hardy Staub, C, Wilf Hurd, or D, Gordon Hogue? Start the clock. The answer is D. Gordon Hogue served the community of White Rock in public office for an incredible 42 years. First elected to White Rock City Council as an alderman in 1974, he was elected mayor of White Rock in 1983, MLA in 1997, and MP in 2017. Question 20. In 1992, Governor General Raymond Nittition came to White Rock. What was the purpose of his visit? Was it to A, dedicate the city's coat of arms, B, sanctify the Legion, C, to attend an international ceremony at the Peace Arch, or D, to sign the city's constitution? Let's roll the clock. The answer is A. Governor General Raymond Nittition came to White Rock in 1992 to dedicate the city of White Rock's new coat of arms. In 1988, White Rock was the first municipality in Canada to request a grant of arms from the newly established Canadian Heraldic Authority. A committee was appointed to work on the design, which was very complicated, involving 10 different cultural elements representing the overall culture of White Rock. Governor General Nittition dedicated the new coat of arms in a ceremony at the United Church in White Rock on April 10th, 1992. All right, everybody, that's the end of our quiz. Thanks for playing. I hope you had fun. And be sure to look for more videos and quizzes from the White Rock Museum and Archives coming up soon.